I bankrupted myself to save my sister, only to discover she'd been living in luxury while I struggled. When I finally confronted her, I learned that everything she'd told me, her poverty, her child's illness, were lies. I pressed charges, and now our family will never be the same. Hi everyone, just wanted to share what happened to me, a regular woman in her mid-20s who ended up ruined, betrayed, and shocked by her own sister's deception. This is the story of how supporting my sister, Emily, 31F, destroyed my life and changed my view on family forever. From early on, I knew that choices could make or break our futures. To succeed in school, you need money, and that money disappeared fast in our family. Emily got married to Mark, her college boyfriend, against everyone's advice when she was in her mid-20s. My parents were furious, leading to a huge divide. In the end, it was only me who kept in touch with Emily. A few years passed, and she had 2 kids, James and Bella. Then Mark left her, and she was stuck overseas in a country all on her own, forced to manage everything alone. I could tell it was hard. She had an okay job, but it didn't cover much, so she often reached out asking for help. Since I was a student myself, my savings weren't great, but I did what I could. It felt like nothing ever went right for Emily. First, news came that Mark had died in a car accident. I felt terrible, especially for the kids. Then, she said James was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer. That call turned my world upside down. I was ready to hop on a plane to help, but she urged me not to. Coming here now would only cost us more, she insisted. Send whatever you can, I'll update you about everything. I sent every penny I had, but it still wasn't enough. This situation dragged on for more than a year. The pressure to pick between funding her family's medical crisis and finishing my own education grew overwhelming. But I chose her, thinking my own future could wait if it meant helping my nephew. So every month, I took on odd jobs and poured whatever I earned toward Emily. I desperately wanted James to get better and Emily to find happiness again. As years went by, she started to pick up the pieces. James got healthy, she had a steady job, and managed to buy a second-hand car and a charming little house. I took pride in knowing my support mattered, even though my own life was a constant hustle just to stay afloat. At least she and the kids were okay. Eventually, I found a job as a secretary in a big multinational, a minor role, but better than minimum wage jobs. Things started to look up for me at last. Yet, every time I asked Emily for a video call, she avoided it. My internet's slow, or work's calling, she always had an excuse. It was strange, considering she'd call straight away when she needed money. Her updates about James's health also dried up, which was worrying. After everything, I still panicked at the idea his condition might come back, so not hearing anything was torture. I decided enough was enough. I was going to surprise them for James's birthday and see for myself. When I arrived at the address she gave me, my jaw dropped. A gorgeous villa, manicured garden, brand new luxury SUV in the drive. Emily answered the door looking like she'd just stepped off a runway. Designer clothes, perfect hair, the whole bit. I stepped in, totally stunned, while she seemed equally shocked to see me unannounced. The kids were running around with gadgets and toys I could never afford. They were glowing with health and happiness, and it made me wonder how Emily pulled this off while supposedly scraping by. When I confronted her about the money, she hesitated, then finally admitted she'd inherited a large sum from Mark's family after he died. I had no idea Mark's people were wealthy, and it left me confused and hurt. Why had she begged me for financial help all this time? Why hadn't she just told me about the inheritance? Trying to keep things light for the kids, I waited, but over the next day, things didn't add up. There were no photos of Mark or his family in her house, none. I couldn't spot any old bills or medical records for James's cancer treatment either, which didn't make sense. When I asked, Emily got defensive and refused to answer. That made me suspicious enough to check more thoroughly. I asked if I could see James's hospital papers, any medical bills, or at least something proving the diagnosis. Emily bristled and told me to back off, but as I threatened to visit the hospital or even talk to James's school about special protocols for kids recovering from a major illness, she finally cracked. Turns out, James had never been sick at all. Emily admitted she'd lied about the cancer, the money issues, everything. She confessed to using my love and generosity to fund her own lifestyle, while I'd sacrificed my education and life for her. I felt devastated, furious, and completely blindsided. I tried to confront Emily, but she slipped right back into her old games, denying everything, accusing me of misunderstanding, trying to make me doubt my own reality. My anger snapped. How could she do this to me after all I'd sacrificed to keep her afloat? It started to dawn on me that she'd been manipulating me for years. The golden child always handed everything on a silver platter, now using my loyalty for her own gain. I couldn't let her get away with it. So while she panicked, I started digging. I kept looking into her finances, her background, and even her occupation. Sure enough, she'd lied about nearly everything: her income, her job title, even her health. She was quietly living off all the money I'd scraped together and mailed across the globe. Once Emily caught wind that I wasn't going to roll over, she moved fast to cover her tracks. Suddenly, she was on the phone with our parents, telling them I was spreading lies just to slander her because I was jealous of her success. Things got nastier. She filed a report with local immigration, accusing me of overstaying my visa for her country, which was utterly absurd. I was dumbfounded. After all I'd done for her and her kids, she chose to sabotage me instead of taking responsibility. That's when I knew I needed help. I found a lawyer, laid out all the bank transfers, the messages, the requests for help over the years, and even the recent threats and harassment. My lawyer's advice was to document every detail, every penny, every desperate request, every time she'd hoodwinked me. I followed his advice to the letter. Armed with evidence, I confronted Emily one final time, telling her I had proof of who was really lying. At first, she tried to talk me down again, insisting I was making everything up. But when she saw the files, her mask slipped. She broke down, confessed to everything, and pleaded for forgiveness. But I'd had enough. I pressed charges for fraud and theft, and informed her I refused to drop the case unless the money was returned. I also called immigration and reported her for fraud, handing over every bit of evidence, bank records, emails, everything. Within weeks, authorities arrested her. Emily was charged with fraud, forced to repay me to the last cent, and sentenced to community service. Her world fell apart, and after serving her sentence, she had no choice but to return to her home country. Update 1. Emily is absolutely livid, doing everything she can to turn family and friends against me. Despite her efforts to rewrite the story and smear me as the real villain, deep down, I know I did the right thing. Years of supporting and sacrificing for her and her children led only to deception. Facing the full truth was brutal, but I refused to play her game anymore. I started cutting her out, refusing to talk or argue further. Instead, I focused on work and rebuilding my life, finally managing to save enough to rent my own apartment, make new friends, and even start seeing someone special. Update 2. The drama wasn't over. Even after everything, Emily spread rumors through our extended family, calling me a thief to flip the blame. Luckily, I knew better than to sink to her level. I stayed polite, limited conversation, and made sure to keep records of every interaction. I couldn't control what she said, but I could control myself, and that was enough to regain some peace. Update 3. I've completely cut off all contact with Emily. It wasn't easy, but I learned powerful lessons. Sometimes the people closest to you can cause the most pain, but justice is possible if you stand up for yourself. Forgiveness isn't always required. Sometimes, cutting toxic family ties is what you need to heal. I'm moving on with my life, accepting that she'll never change, and I no longer owe her anything. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey, Reddit. That wraps up the whole story. It's clear how a combination of trust and manipulation can upend relationships, even ones that feel unbreakable. In the end, standing up for yourself is sometimes the only option. What do you think? If you found yourself betrayed by a family member, would you be able to confront them? Or would you walk away in silence? Share your thoughts below.